Did you wonder where I went? I had to push the buttons. Welcome to the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show. Steve Ray coming to you from the Owl's Nest Barbecue Den here at the Owl's Nest Barbecue Compound. We've got a tremendous show lined up. An extra bonus, extra 30 minutes tonight. So pour yourself a cup of coffee or grab yourself another Coke or beer and kick back for seriously 90 minutes of great barbecue talk right here on the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show. I want to remind everybody that we're brought to you by the Owl's Nest Barbecue Supply and Pro Shop right here in Ooltewah, Tennessee on exit 11, right off of I-75 in Ooltewah, Tennessee. Broadcast partner tonight for the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show is Backyard Smokers Barbecue on Facebook. If you've got a question about barbecue, if you're new, old, in the middle, Backyard Smokers Barbecue is a great place for information and to post your pictures of your barbecue too. It's a great site, over 100,000 members. Great place to hang out. Also, I want to remind everybody, my pal Jeff Maxwell is back at his house monitoring the chat. So please join us, chime in, and Jeff will engage you in the chat, and we will have a big time tonight. And I tell you what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to start this thing up real quick. There we go. I'm not even going to mess around. I'm not even going to mess around tonight. Hang on. Hold on. Got to turn that off. We're going to go right over here. And looky there, just like magic. From Charleston, South Carolina, via Furman, via the University of South Carolina, it's Robert Moss, the author of Barbecue, The History of an American Institution. How about that, Robert?
Looks good. Thanks, Steve.
Second edition right
That's
there.
Right.
And I'm going to really blow your mind. First edition.
First edition.
You think I'm just a Johnny come lately? I'm a Robert Moss groupie. I've got them. Look at that. I've even got them earmarked. Can you see that? I've got pages earmarked in here.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Of interesting things that I have read in your books. Welcome to the show, Robert. So nice of you to join me all the way from Charleston, one of the what do you say, food capital of the East now.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the food capitals of, I'd say, the whole country these days. It's a wonderful dining scene, just in general, particularly fine dining scenes. But it's got a really good barbecue scene these days too. So it's a really good place to come visit and eat, and even better place to live and eat.
I'm sure you've seen the latest Chef's Table with Rodney Scott and
Yep, I
Tootsie
sure
Tomahawk.
have.
And Rodney really put Charleston in a good light. Real quickly, have you been there?
Yeah, quite a number of times. It's not too far from my house down to Rodney's place, and of course I went to his parents' place up in Hemingway, South Carolina, quite a number of times, in the past, and then know Rodney pretty well. I've done a lot of events with him and stuff like that. So it's been great to watch him, because I knew him long before he came to Charleston. It's been great to watch him, first get the Charleston open in the restaurant. Now he's got a restaurant in Birmingham. He's about to open another one in Atlanta. So he's got a little, barbecue empire taking off. So it's great to see him do so well. That
was a great show. We talked about it a few weeks ago.
They did a really good job with that. I think just the visuals were fantastic, and I thought they did a really good job with it.
All four episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were great. Robert did his undergraduate work at Furman University. He did his graduate work at the University of South Carolina. And Robert, as we always do, we unveil the most famous graduates of the undergraduate institution where our guest attended. So I will go to you first. Who do you think the most famous graduate from Furman, home of
Furman,
the
most famous graduate? Oh, I don't know.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there are. But now I hadn't expected that, so now I'm drawing a blank. I didn't go dig back.
If you watched the show, you would expect that.
Yeah, I should have expected that.
One demerit. Nothing comes to mind. Oh, you're going to kick yourself. You're going to kick yourself. Actually, there are two. The first is Charles Towns. Do you know what Mr. Towns did?
Did he invent the laser?
Yes. Yes, he
Yeah.
did. The guy, the Nobel Prize recipient in 1964 in physics, he invented the laser. Like, like we wouldn't have found that, right? Laser
Yeah, I
stands
always told me
for,
there Richard Riley was a big alum, and a lot of campus stuff is named after him. But I'm not sure how famous he is outside of South Carolina.
no, what did he do?
He was the governor of South Carolina
Oh,
for a
okay.
long while and very
Okay.
much involved in politics. And then I think he has they founded the Political Institute at Furman named after him.
Okay.
So he's always a teacher there as well.
He's not as big as Robert. He's not as big as Charles Towns, though.
No,
Laser
not,
stands for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. I always wondered what it stood for. The guy, so the guy that invented the laser pointer that you make your cat go crazy with,
Yep.
he went to your school, Furman. And just as important as Mr. Towns, Herman Lay went to Furman. And now that name should ring a bell.
It should, but it rings a bell only because I think that's the PE center there is named the Herman Lay PE
Well,
Center.
that's a good thing, too, because he invented the potato chip. And he needs the Lay's potato chip empire. So they need to be in that gym working off that
I went
fat.
to school there. I went to that gym. I did not realize it was the same guy who did the Lay's potato chip. I just never made the connection.
Yeah. So Charles Towns, the guy that invented the laser, went to your school, and Herman Lay, the guy that invented potato chips.
Well, there you go.
Charles Towns lived to be 100 years old. And he was killed when he was driving his car. Somebody pointed a laser pointer in his eye, and I kid you, I couldn't resist that. Okay, they're the two most important people in my life to ever walk on earth. I'm going to tell you that right now. Hey, let's talk about this book. This while we're here, the history of barbecue is, to me, fascinating because barbecue, it transcends our entire being here in the United States. I think the earliest I saw in your book, 1585, there were references to barbecue in the United States. And I'm saying barbecue. I mean, they were calling it that. And just think of the one thing that we all have in common since we've been here, and before, since the continent was settled, it has been cooking meat slowly over live fires. And when did you start to wonder about the history of barbecue? What prodded you?
Yeah, well, growing up, of course, I didn't think that much about it, as most people wouldn't. And I was growing up in the 70s and 80s when barbecue was really in decline, and so I didn't eat it a whole lot until I got really it was when I was at Furman really that I really got into it, and I'd sort of got tired of fast food and all that, and there were a couple of good barbecue joints in Greenville, and then I sort of got hooked on it and started driving around all over the upstate of South Carolina and up into the Piedmont of North Carolina, just I had a free hour or two and checking out and trying to track down barbecue joints. So it was really during my college years that I first sort of fell in love with eating it, but it wasn't until early 2000s that I really started looking into the history. While I was in graduate school, I got a PhD in English, but I got more and more interested in history as I was working on that English degree. And so after I finished up that degree and I'd finished a book and needed a new project, and I was getting much more into culinary history and reading about food, and and at the same time eating a lot of barbecue. So I was like, well, I wonder, let's go to the library and see, see if I can check out a book on the history of barbecue. And even at the University of South Carolina's big research library, there was not a single book on barbecue that had been written. Wow. And that's when I started, getting more curious and started digging into it myself. And, it took a while, but I gradually started turning up a lot of good information. And I realized how deep, how far back barbecue went in our country's history, or even centuries before the country was founded, and just how big it was in particularly in the 19th century. And that's something that no one had, in the early 2000s, no one had written about that. Some people had written books that talked about restaurants in the early 20th century and sort of that piece of it, but no one went very far back, or if they did, they didn't go in very much detail. And so that was about the time the early 2000s is when I really got interested and started really doing the research.
So The first edition, I'm going to call it the barbecue history book,
Mhm.
was published in 2010. So what year was it when you decided that this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to write this book? How long does it take to
Uh,
write the history of barbecue?
well, I researched it for a long time, and just sort of as a hobby on the side, and then got more and more stuff. And before long, started feeling like, okay, I got enough to write a book. And so that it probably took me, 5 or 6 years of researching sort of on the side before I felt like, okay, I'm gonna get serious. So then I knuckled down and started, writing proposals and that kind of stuff. It probably took me, I'd say, a year, 2 years total to write the book, the first edition of the book. And that wasn't my full-time job or anything, so I was doing it on the side. But the actual writing, once I got serious, was a year or two, I'd say.
Well, the book jam packed with great stories, little nuggets of information, things you would never think of, and you've got them all in the first edition and the second edition. So let's fast forward a little bit to 2020. First of all, book will be released October the 6th. Correct?
October the 6th, and it's already out in the wild in
Yeah.
various places. So
Yeah, if you order from Amazon like I did, it's here.
yeah, people
Absolutely.
are starting to get them in the mail now. So I'm getting pictures from people and stuff. That's great. Official date is 5 days from now, October on Tuesday. So yeah, almost exactly 10 years from the publication of the first edition, and so it's out there now.
So what was the aha moment that said, Robert, we need to write the second edition?
Yeah.
There's stuff going on.
It's hard to remember because I had a really good time writing the second edition, just going back and looking at sort of where I left things in 2010, though really I left it in 2009 or so because it takes about a year to go through the publication process. So I really had finished the first version by 2009. And so much has changed in the world of barbecue in just 10 years. And it's just remarkable. In fact, that's one, I did a lot of other expansion and revision, but I added an entire new chapter at the end that just covers everything that happened since the book came out. And I think, sort of, it's funny when I submitted the manuscript to the press in 2009, I think it was December 2009, Aaron Franklin had just opened up his little barbecue trailer off the side of the interstate in Austin. This is before he got the brick and mortar restaurant, and he was just starting to draw people with the huge lines and everything else. And I'd never even heard of him by the time I finished the book and submitted it. So that whole just blossoming of the craft barbecue world, I didn't see it coming, and it all happened after the book. So there had been so much that happened since I'd written it. And since I wrote the first edition, I signed on with Southern Living as their contributing barbecue editor. And so I had spent a lot of time traveling around the South and, between, I'd say 2014, 2000, and then in 2018, I probably is when I started the revisions. So I'd eaten a ton more barbecue, visited a lot more places, talked to a lot of the families who've been around for a long time. So I just had so much more material. And at the same time, a whole lot of other books had come out after mine came out. And so there's really been just a wealth of new books have come out and just really helped fill in the gaps and just a lot more writing and research into barbecue. So nothing that came out really, invalidated the history. It wasn't like we got the story wrong the first time. It's just we know a lot more now. It can really fill in a lot more details and said a few things right that I either just didn't know the answer to or had a couple mistakes in the first book. But we know so much more now about the history than we did 10 years ago, and barbecue has just been revolutionized in the United States in the past decade. So I wanted to be able to cover both those things with a new book.
And just so my friends that are listening here in Ooltewah, Chattanooga area know, a few years ago when Couch's Barbecue right here in Ooltewah made the top 10 list of barbecue restaurants in the Southeast, it was this guy right here that crowned them with that honor. That was Robert's.
Indeed, yeah.
It was Robert's list. He has been there. Who's
I've
been
been
there?
there several times.
Yeah.
And in fact, my wife is from Cleveland, Tennessee, which is just right up the road from you guys.
Another
And
connection.
so, yep.
I'm connected to everybody in barbecue, Robert. I'm telling you. It's
So,
crazy. It's crazy.
yeah, I'd always try to swing by there when I could. When I was up in two places I'd want to go. I'd want to go to Couch's and I want to go to Benton's Country Hams
Yep.
up in was it Madison, I think,
Madisonville.
or
Yep.
Madisonville, which is just north of where my wife's family or where my wife grew
Hmm.
up. So those are two great places I never want to miss when I'm in East Tennessee.
And my friend Alvin, Al Selvage is listening. Al, and I just want to let you know that Kenny will not give Robert the hot slaw recipe either. So don't think he's just being mean to us. He's mean to everybody. The hot slaw is out of this world, and it is a closely guarded
Yeah.
Steiner family recipe that will probably never be unveiled.
I've seen it a few other places, but that was the first place I came across that bright yellow, just
Hmm.
fiery hot slaw, and it's so unique. It's one of the it's worth going by there just to get the slaw. Though you should get the sliced pork while you're at it, but the slaw itself is there's nothing quite like it anywhere else.
It's everything is in that place is delicious.
Yeah.
What when your book first came out in 2010, just think of what was going on that we didn't even know about. There's a guy named John Marcus was trying to
Hmm.
develop a competition barbecue television series, and he was playing around with these there's other little series that predated the granddaddy of them all, Barbecue Pitmasters. Aaron Franklin was just opening, and then all of a sudden, kaboom! 2010 is dawning, and how important is this one decade been to barbecue in this country?
I think it's been huge, hugely important. When I first wrote the book, it sort of ends with the decline and rebirth of barbecue because barbecue did almost disappear altogether
Hmm.
in the 70s and 80s. But then it came back and the barbecue competitions came back. And so or started up really. They started in the 80s and 90s and sort of picked up steam. And then after 2000, you had the rise of food television, which helped spark interest in barbecue. And then you also had a lot more interest in restaurants. So you had a lot of folks opening up restaurants who maybe didn't come from a barbecue background. And so all that was happening in the first decade, between 2000 and 2010. But it sort of ended where the original book sort of ended on this almost like I was trying to be hopeful, but ambiguous note because things were coming back. The restaurants were getting better, but it seemed like a lot of the old styles were fading out, like
Hmm.
cooking over wood, cooking whole hogs, even the kind of brisket cooking on the offset smokers that Aaron Franklin is so well known for. You had all those Central Texas meat markets that inspired him. They were still around, but they were sort of not well known and it's
Hmm.
still off the beaten path somewhat. That of course all of that changed in 2010,
That
2011,
and that's
and
exactly
just
where I'm heading right now.
yeah.
Let's back up because we all know how popular barbecue is now. Even the people who own the
Hmm.
restaurants, and they spend endless hours looking at a fire with a shovel in hand. Before they were nobodies, and now they are become these mythical figures, where people are doing documentaries about them, about a
Yeah.
person who shovels coals under a piece of meat, and they're being held up in great revere. Before that, though, who were some of the pit masters and the minders that came before all these present day barbecue wonders that maybe we don't know about?
Um, what and one interesting thing we do more and more people are starting to learn about them these days, and it depends on how far back you wanna go. Um, we don't know a whole lot before the Civil War about who was cooking barbecue. Like there weren't famous barbecue
Right.
cooks, but certainly in the book I talk about the era of the barbecue man, as they called him, which was the late 19th century. Before restaurants, barbecue was still an outdoor tradition. But these famous cooks sort of earned reputations as being the best barbecue cook in their county, and they sort of oversaw all the pits and the whole crew that was working, and were just known for their skill. So you could talk about the barbecue men, and then you could talk about some of the early restaurateurs who came along, and there were these great pioneering restaurateurs from the early part of the 20th century who both built out restaurants, but then they also taught like the next generation who then went and opened their own restaurants and went and opened their own restaurants. So, you sort of have those early restaurateur guys who were a combination of cooks, but many were also restaurateurs. So there's a little bit of both in the 20th century, and we could go into some specifics if you like. Or I didn't know how you want to.
No, that's good. And the
reason
reason I asked that is I wanted to touch a little base on the one of the I don't know, it could be a tragedy to some, maybe not to others. I don't know, but the history of the African American in barbecue in our nation. The pictures in your book, I have several of those up in my store, because they're available on the internet. You can just print them off and put them up. And there people always like to look at those. And a donut to a dollar, every one of them seems to have an African American working the pit, and I mean the hand dug pit in the ground, while the white owner or the store owner, manager, whatever, looks over them. And of course that person takes, the white person took the credit when the African Americans were doing the work perfecting the recipes. And it's a little bit like Nearest Green. And if you don't know who he is, he's the guy that taught Jack Daniels how to distill. It wasn't Dan Hall, the pastor, whose this story originated. It was Nearest Green, the former slave, that taught him how to distill. And the stories about Nearest Green are just now starting to come out. What made the people, and there's one good section in your book about a gentleman in South Carolina, about people writing out the African Americans in the history of this, and now it's starting to come about because of people like yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting, and even this is one of the big reasons, and I wanted the second edition of the book was, in addition to being able to tell what's happened in the last 10 years, is to really dig more into the 19th century and into that question of who's really doing the cooking. Because the first time around, you're right, for so many of these barbecues in the South, there is sort of the white face to the public. And you'll often see them called the Great Caterers, is actually the term you'll see in newspapers. And they were typically white men who are influential in their county. They're very much tied in with politics. One of those guys would be Sheriff John Calloway from Wilkes County, Georgia, the famous barbecuing sheriff of Georgia. Another was a guy named I think John and his son Charles Bowler from Augusta, Georgia, who are also, like, I think they were the tax collectors, or they're somehow associated with local politics in Augusta and Richmond County, Georgia. And they hosted the barbecues. They staged them, but they weren't the cooks. They got all the credit for it. But if you look at some of the old pictures, you can clearly see who's holding the shovels and standing at the pits. And one thing I was able to do in this time around, which I didn't do in the first book, is I was able to John T. Edge and one of his students had uncovered the name Henry Pettis, who was Sheriff John Calloway's cook, but they didn't know much about him. They just had that name, and I was able to take that name and go do a bunch more research and sort of flesh out a little bit more the story of Henry Pettis and who he was and all that. And I was able to turn up a lot more information about Pickens Wells and Gus Ferguson, who were the two cooks for the Bowler family, employed by the Bowler family in Augusta. This is in the 1890s, and right around the turn of the century. And so at all those famous events, including when President Taft did his southern visit and went to a barbecue, he was invited to a barbecue at the Bowlers farm outside of Augusta. And it was Pickens Wells who was actually doing the cooking. In this case, Pickens Wells and Gus Ferguson actually did get into the newspapers. Unfortunately, this is in the height of the Jim Crow era, so the accounts are pretty, sort of derogatory and demeaning accounts in the white press, but we're able to identify who these great cooks were, and these guys were well known and in demand throughout the county. In fact, Gus Ferguson left he was employed by the Bowlers, but he left and went out on his own. He actually cooked for a while in a restaurant in Augusta and did hosted his own barbecues, but he ended up moving north with his children. So after some of his children moved up north and sort of turned his back on all that. So I think it's complicated, but it is very much tied in with the post-Reconstruction era South, when not only were the white Southerners reasserting political control, but they were changing the narrative. Yeah. And barbecue got very tied in with this Moonlight Magnolia view of life on plantations before the Civil War, to the extent that you got Northern writers in the 1890s, so 30 plus years after the end of the Civil War and after emancipation, writing about Sheriff John Calloway as if he still has a plantation with slaves on it, and as if these guys were there, were still somehow servants to him. And I was able to dig a little bit more into the story of Henry Pettis and reveal that no, he owned his own farm. He was getting paid for his work. He just didn't get the credit for it that he deserved. And over a century later, I think we're finally starting to be able to recognize those names a little bit more.
Robert, when you find a tip like that, a Pettis, a name scribbled on a napkin that you had dining with John Edge or whatever, whoever you're having lunch with at the time, do you go to the counties yourself, or do you start on the internet first and then? But there has to be a time when you actually have to go in there.
Well, you're used to be, and that's actually what's an interesting thing about the book. And this is even before the first edition was published. In 2001, 2002, when I was starting out doing this, I had to actually go there to the counties. It's hard to find things. I happened to visit Kansas City and spent a whole lot of time at the Kansas State Public Library in their local history room, going through like their vertical files, which actually had newspaper clippings and things to turn up information about Henry Perry and some of the early restaurateurs there. And it was a lot of laborious work. What's happened in the 21st century is so much of that material has been digitized. Curiously enough, it was digitized initially for genealogists to help people trace their roots, because genealogists used to have to do the exact same thing. They have to go visit courthouses and look up records and all that. And now so much of it is available often it's a subscription service, but my wife happens to be a genealogist. And so early on, she had sort of gotten subscriptions to these genealogy databases. And I realized really quickly, these are great historical resources. And I now no longer have to drive all the way to Wilkes County, Georgia, and go visit the courthouse to try to dig up some records, because they're online now.
But the history that you've uncovered in your books, it's some of it is just unbelievable. And what I like to do is let's talk about the change in America. We'll zip past the 30s and into the 40s and into the 50s. You've got a great chapter in several pages on what happened to barbecue and what was happening in America that kind of pushed barbecue to the side. Go into that if you don't mind, because
sure.
It's a great story.
Yeah, I won't tell you. I'll skim over the whole rise of restaurants, but that really started in the early 20th century, and they evolved from very just sort of informal barbecue stands to sit-down restaurants and to everything else. I really call the period of the book right after World War II the golden age of barbecue. In fact, I originally called it the golden age. In the new book, I call it the first golden age of barbecue. But the 1950s was really when barbecue dominated the American restaurant world. You would get it along the sides of the highway. That was a roadside restaurant. The first drive-in restaurant chain, the Pig Stand, was a barbecue restaurant. This was before the rise of McDonald's and Burger King, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, and all the fast food joints. So barbecue was sort of the original casual quick service food. Took a long time to cook, but you could serve it pretty quick. So it was in these takeout stands. It was in drive-in restaurants. It was in fancy restaurants. You have all these pictures in the book of places that say steak, chops, and barbecue, because like nice restaurants in the 50s,
Yeah.
air conditioned restaurants in the 50s would have a barbecue pit out back. And then you had the rise of the fast food chains. I think a lot of people know the story of Richard and Maurice McDonald in San Bernardino, California. And their drive-in, which eventually they closed down and converted to a all fast food, you, you
Speedy
counter
method.
service only, kind
Yeah.
of the speedy
Yeah.
service system.
Hmm.
Burger King came along not long after that. Hot on their way. Colonel Sanders and KFC was in the 60s. And what happened was the all the restaurants that tended to serve barbecue, they were getting squeezed out by these new low margin, high volume fast food restaurants. And there's a huge difference between cooking hamburgers on a griddle and cooking, pork shoulders on a wood fired pit. You
Didn't the
can't just hire a kid.
when the McDonald brothers started, didn't they serve barbecue at first?
Yep, that
I
that was
thought they
actually
did.
one of my big discoveries in the
Yeah.
first book, is that their drive-in restaurant, like a lot of drive-ins of the era, that it wasn't just burgers and hot dogs. They had a lot of different things on the menu, including barbecue. They had a barbecue pit out behind their
And
drive-in,
that was in San
um,
Bernardino,
in
California.
San
So
Bernardino,
barbecue
California.
had already made its way west. Yeah.
Yep. No. Yep. Barbecue. From the early days of restaurants, the early 20th century, California had a ton of barbecue restaurants. But what happened was they realized that they couldn't make money off of it. They
Right.
were just breaking even. So they shut all that down, got rid of the barbecue, got rid. I can't remember what else they had. They had a bunch. The menu. I actually have an old menu in the book. The original
Yeah.
menu before they converted to just hamburgers. And when they reopened, all they had were burgers, fries, and I think shakes. And
Hmm.
you could have, like, whatever you want, as long as it's pickles and
Yeah.
onions and and ketchup.
Exactly
It's the
right.
only things you could get on it. Um, but that was just this trend toward sort of a race to the bottom in terms of cost. And the barbecue guys just really couldn't compete, especially if you're cooking wood cooked barbecue.
Yeah.
In addition to trying to compete on price, labor was getting more expensive. Wood got very expensive in the
Hmm.
1970s. So just the price of fuel and what it costs to run a barbecue joint, that's when you start seeing a lot of barbecue guys switching over to all gas pits.
Hmm.
That's when you see a lot of drive-ins switching formats and getting rid of the car hops and turning more into a fast food restaurant. So you sort of went a couple different ways. A lot of the early barbecue joints. In fact, if you think about it, a lot of the classic barbecue joints like Couches that we were just talking about, they were founded in the 40s and the 50s. That's sort of when there are a few still around that were founded before World War II, but not that many. What we think of as a classic barbecue joints often date back to the 50s or the 60s. But a lot of those didn't last because they were family-run businesses. When the owners got older and ready to retire, a lot of times their kids who grew up in the business had
Yeah.
no desire to
No
take over the
kidding.
restaurant.
Yeah. No
Yep,
thanks,
they
Dad.
couldn't. And so you see a lot in the 70s and 80s, families either selling the restaurants to somebody else or just closing them all together because no one wanted to take them over. So you sort of had some restaurants sort of went more toward becoming fast food places. Other restaurants became more toward like specialty barbecue places, but they just declined and went downhill. And Americans increasingly just weren't as interested in barbecues. They used to be, everybody was eating hamburgers and fried chicken and all
Yep.
that type of thing. And barbecue was sort of this outdated thing that people weren't all that interested in.
And that only lasted. The downtrend, I guess, in the scope of history, didn't last that long because it
Yeah.
came back, and when it came back strong,
Yep. I
and
marked 1982 as a low point of American barbecue in the book, and
yeah,
that's the year that McDonald's, having gotten rid of barbecue uh, 40 years before, brought back the McRib
McRib.
or introduced the McRib sandwich, and that was about the lowest point. But I think in the 80s, people started realizing that they were losing something, and you had a lot of newspaper writers and
Yeah.
columnists starting to praise barbecue joints, and people got more interested in it. That's about the time the KCBS and
Hmm.
Memphis in May and all those competitions were taking off. So that brought a lot of new people in, and then it just sort of it's grown steadily year after year ever since then. And of course, we already talked about it just exploded after after the 21st century.
We got about 6, 7 minutes left, but I want to get to our final two discussion points.
Mhm.
the most fascinating people that you've interviewed for the second edition?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've talked to so many different people. Um, uh, I did talk to the owners of Old Hickory in Owensboro, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the name now. It's a Foreman family. I can't remember which. It's a grandson, a great grandson of the founder is running it today. I just thought that was really interesting. I got a lot of stories about barbecue in Owensboro and mutton and how they cook it and all that kind of stuff, which was something that was new. And in the original edition of the book, I did not cover Kentucky in my restaurant section, which is a terrible omission. So I was able to bring that in and really enjoyed talking to the Foreman family and getting information
And of
about
course,
them.
the OTC revolutionized the way barbecue could be cooked from simple offset cookers to or propane over wood
Hmm.
on a rotisserie, even cooking, even temperatures, and cooking a lot of meat at one time. And
Yeah.
one of the big reasons barbecue restaurants, I think, that adapted that method, they said, hey, we can do this. We want to come back.
Well, it's actually a really interesting thing that happened in the 70s was a lot of the guys who were switching off of wood to gas, especially here in the Carolinas, they would just take their old pits that they used to shovel wood in and put like gas burners underneath it. So they were literally just getting rid of the wood and putting gas in the pit and just basically roasting pig like in the oven. But then over time, Southern Pride and Old Hickory and those gas assist cookers came along. And actually, I think Sonny's out of Florida, Sonny Tillman was one of the early guys who teamed up with Southern Pride to
Mm-hmm.
create those. So what happened is that it's still a gas cooker, but you actually put whole logs in it
Yep.
now, and it was a gas or a flamethrower that burns them, and it fills with real hardwood smoke.
It makes a good
And
product. I'm telling you, it
yeah,
makes a real good
I mean,
product.
it solves the dilemma of the barbecue guy restaurateur who can't afford all the wood and can't afford to stay up all night or can't
Hmm.
find people to stay up all night
And
shoveling
he
coals.
can buy a piece of equipment that he can finance
Yep,
or rent or lease. Something
yep,
that a bank will look at and go, yeah, if you go under, I can sell this.
yep.
And something that you can't. It's hard to pull a offset smoker up to the bank and go, I need this. They go, no, you don't. But you
That's
need
right.
that. But you need that big thing. All right,
So
let's do
it
this.
makes barbecue. I was just say what it did is took barbecue and made it sustainable as a restaurant product, but still give it smoke and flavor. So it's sort of like a blending of the two worlds that made barbecue a lot better in the 90s and the
Oh,
early
it's. I
2000s
think it's the
than it
best.
had
I
been
think
20
it's
years
the
before.
best of both worlds. I
Yep.
think the restaurants that use it, I'm all for them. Good for them because there's people still there 24 hours a day running those things.
Yep.
You can't just go home and start it and say we're going home, because the chances of something catastrophic happening are still there. So somebody still has to man it,
Yep.
and that's what I like about barbecue. Is somebody's got to be there, taking care of the food. 2020. Let's do something different. Let's ask Alexa now because that's where we're at. Before 2010, the internet was there, but probably wasn't real helpful. Meathead was just getting this little website called Amazing Ribs going. You could get thrown off of AOL for
Yep.
typing in all caps, as my daughter did. And but now we can ask Alexa, what will 2020 to 2030, when third edition comes out in
Mhm.
2030, what do you think is going to be the storyline in that, Robert?
Well, the
Where are we
thing
going?
I didn't see coming in the first edition, I didn't see Aaron Franklin and all the revival of craft barbecue and that explosion. And this second edition had gone to the press before the pandemic came, so before COVID-19. I didn't see that coming for sure
No.
in 2020. So when the third edition comes in 10 years, I suspect we'll see a number of things. Um, I think you're going to see actually I think that the sort of nature of coronavirus and all that is pushing the barbecue format, and the barbecue guys are actually doing a lot better than more sit down fine dining folks, because it's more suited. I think you're going to see a lot more of the, where things are already going, which is that kind of
Takeout.
barbecue as a place that you come to gather, but it's outdoors, it's spread out.
Mm-hmm.
You've got music, it's an entertainment gather thing. It's not just a restaurant you go and eat the food
Or
at.
you gather at home. You go to the place and you get it.
Yeah, or you
And
get
then
it and bring it
and you
back. Yeah,
gather it. It's like you self cater,
yeah.
and
And
then
I'm
you
sure
bring it back.
that will turn around, at some point. But I think that trend that was already happening has just been going to be accelerating, which is that barbecue restaurants, and just the difference between a barbecue restaurant in 2010 and a lot of new places that have opened up. Um, I think you're going to see much more of that, where a barbecue place is where you go with your friends and your dogs, and you hang out in the
Mm-hmm.
patio and you drink beer and you listen to music, and it's a hangout kind of place, but it's casual, it's informal. So I
It's the
think that's
ultimate
definitely
casual
happening.
dining.
Yeah, yeah.
Robert
And
Moss, we got to roll, man.
okay,
I
no
thank
problem.
you so much. Let's do this again. I seriously, I could talk to you for hours. I mean, this is just such a topic that I love to discuss, the history of barbecue, and being fairly new to it myself, just 7 years in. Anything I can learn, and especially your books and your readings, I encourage everybody. Barbecue, the history of the American institution.
Yep.
Order it and buy it. You will not be unsatisfied. You will like it immensely, just as I do. Robert Moss, thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve.
I sure
Appreciate you having me
appreciate you.
on.
Next time you come to Couches now,
I'll give you a shout for sure.
you better. We'll go there and eat. Thanks,
All
man.
righty.
You
Have a
bet.
good one.
What a great fellow, Robert Moss, coming to us from Charleston, South Carolina. Hold on one moment. Family Matters, right in the middle of my show. Family Matters. That's okay. You guys understand. You guys understand. All right, we're going to switch gears here, and we are going to head over to Maryland for our next guest. Just stay with me, because this guest, I guarantee you, will not disappoint. She is really something, and she is Johnny on the spot. Georgia Chasen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
Oh, I've been looking forward to this moment for so long to get to talk. Did you get to listen to Robert any?
I
Is
did,
he not
yeah.
incredible? Incredible. You should buy his book if you haven't got it. You probably have.
I agree. I'm planning on stocking up for Christmas.
Oh, it's a winner. It sure is. Georgia Chasen with us. She's the home cook on the American Barbecue Showdown, running right now on Netflix. It is I don't think it's a surprise hit, but it is a hit. It's a surprise hit with some people that aren't familiar with barbecue and competition food, because it has stayed in the top 10 on Netflix since it opened, and people of all sorts of lives are watching it because you guys did such a good job, Georgia. I mean, just a great job. She's a graduate of Towson University in Towson, Maryland, home of the Tigers. Go Doc. I didn't realize how big that school was. It's huge.
It's a big school.
Big school. She studied acting and theater during her tenure at Towson. She's married. She's a mom. She resides on what she calls her 2 acres of suburbia, and she is now a reality television star. Georgia Chasen, everybody, right there. Let's have a big round of applause. I can hear it. I can hear it. I can hear it. And of course, and as if you watched the first part of the show, you know we will talk about the famous graduates of your school. One, which I know all my friends have heard of, is, and I'm sure you have too, Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs.
Yep.
Did you know that?
I knew it, but I didn't know him.
But you didn't dwell on it though, like I do.
I,
Right. You don't spend hours on the computer looking who went to my school. That's what I do. And the other, probably the most famous right now, is Amy Schumer.
that's
She's
right.
a Towson graduate. And quickly, you're connected. Tell us about that.
Oh, very tangential. She and I were classmates in the theater program. So we both graduated the same year from that same theater program. We also lived, I think, first semester in the same dorm, but we were actually not friends, like kind of specifically not friends.
Oh, okay. I see a pattern here.
Oh,
We'll get into that later, though, okay? That's the abridged version, and that's great. First of all, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, were you surprised that this show became such a hit on Netflix?
let's start with I was surprised to be on the show.
We're going to get to that.
Okay. I guess I wasn't totally surprised that it became such a big hit. I think it had a really special feeling of camaraderie, and who doesn't like barbecue?
Nobody. That's right.
Exactly.
Tell me, it hit the airwaves September the 18th. Tell me about the watch party that you had.
Well, it was my son, Tate. He's 6 months old, and me.
That's it?
That is it.
That's the watch party? Are you kidding?
No, we
You didn't
got
have
up and,
you didn't have mom and them, everybody over?
well, we're still social distancing. And my husband was under the weather, so it was just me. I did not mean for Tate to get up at 3 a.m., but when I got up, he got up. So it was actually the first TV he's ever watched. I felt like it's fine if that's the first TV he's ever watched. Is mom on TV?
Absolutely. Mom. No, every time he turns the TV on, he's going, "Where's mom? Where's my mom?" Or is that the first time you saw the show, or were you allowed a preview?
Oh, no, we had no previews.
Really?
That was the very first time. It's been a year of waiting to see what it was going to be.
Did that not just kill you, waiting a year to see it?
Yes. I think I had PTSD.
From the barbecue show. And what was your first reaction after you went through all of the? I'm sure you binge watched it as much as you could. Probably maybe took a break after episode 4. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what was your first? Were you happy? Like
Yeah, I actually felt a great sense of relief because I think you can think of every scenario out there as to how a reality show might end up being presented after you've given so much of yourself to the program and have absolutely no insight into how it's going to be edited. So for me, it was a relief that it came off the way they had spoken of the show when they recruited me.
They on purpose wanted to keep it. I'm going to use the word highbrow because it is. Kept it very very peaceful. No smack talk. Did you like that part of it?
Yeah, that was important to me. I'm a mom. I'm a professional out in the world. The last thing I was interested in was getting involved in some program that was going to be dirty pool. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, prior to the American Barbecue Showdown, had you ever competed in any food contest, or had you ever been on a television series or show, not as a guest of your professional job, but as a performer?
No, I'd never been on a television show, and the only food contest I had taken part in is my family has had a very competitive food contest amongst ourselves.
Wow. So y'all go at it in the kitchen, huh?
Oh, we do.
I bet there's smack talk going on there, isn't there?
Indeed. The gloves are off for that.
You put that on YouTube. The mild-mannered home cook from Maryland. See what she's really like. All right, now we're going to go to the big break moment. Where were you? Where were you when you were contacted? How were you contacted? Did you lobby for yourself? Take us through the entire system of Georgia being on the American Barbecue Showdown.
Sure. Well, it had been, I guess it was probably Sunday that I started receiving messages, and
Sunday, when?
Sunday,
What month?
May, let's see. So it was May 2019.
Wow. And what does a message, just in case, what does that message look like? Does it come across on your Twitter feed? Does it come on instant message? How does it, is it Facebook, emailed? How does that message come?
It was an Instagram message.
Okay. All right.
And I just gotten back on Instagram. I'd taken like a multi-year hiatus. And so I don't even know where the messages were, like where to check them. So this was not something I was expecting. So once I figured out that I had messages, I checked them and it said, I'm a casting agent. I'd love to talk to you about a show. And I said, this is a scam. No, thank you. But it turns out, after I did a little further research, they had seen a post I'd made. I'd roasted a pig in the backyard, a full pig for my father's and brother-in-law's birthday that weekend. Sometimes you do.
Sure.
And
all the time.
All the time.
Who doesn't?
This post had attracted their attention. I'd like to think that my hashtag game is very limited. There are only like 2 hashtags associated with that post, and one of them was the right one.
What was it? What was it?
I don't even know. Let me look it up for you.
Yeah, look it up. Because I guarantee there's people with pencils and papers waiting right now for that hashtag.
Let's check it out.
We're talking with Georgia Chasen from Maryland, one of the competitors on the American Barbecue Showdown, seen right now on Netflix. You can binge watch all 8 episodes. It is an excellent program, very family friendly. The whole family can sit down and watch it, and that's important. Stuff we like. I made my wife and child sit down and watch it.
I'm glad to hear that.
They hate my guts. They hate my guts now, but that's okay.
Oh,
sometimes they just don't like barbecue. They don't like any of this barbecue stuff. But
I'm shocked by that. Huh? You have not converted them yet?
No. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I feel like you are way more persuasive than that.
No, I'm not. Not with these 2. No.
All right.
Not with these 2. All right. What's that hashtag?
All right. I have 3. Hashtag Chasen Homestead. Nobody searches for that.
Yeah.
Hashtag Just a Regular Saturday, and hashtag Pig Roast.
Oh, that got them. I bet that's what they were looking for.
I bet it was.
Now Instagram is not a small social media site, and is that the one?
That's the picture.
Oh my gosh, that's the picture that started it all right there.
It sure is.
The home mom in the backyard.
I wasn't a mom yet.
So what?
I wasn't a mom.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're still the home cook. Ponytails, cooking the pig in the backyard. I would say that would get their attention. So it's May of 2019, and you're getting these emails from these strange people that say they want to cast you in this show. So when was the first phone call made? How did that go?
I think it had to have been that Monday or Tuesday following the weekend, once I had researched and determined that this was a legitimate agency and that they had done other work. And so I thought, well, let me at least have a phone call and figure out what this is, because that's an unusual message.
Yeah.
And from there, it moved kind of quickly and yet slowly. My father's in the military. It's a very hurry up and wait system.
Mm-hmm.
So this was absolutely that. They asked me to apply to be on this show that they likened to the Great British Bake Off, but for barbecue.
Yeah.
And I decided, why not? I love barbecue. I love grilling. I did not fancy myself an expert in any of these categories, but I had won the family cook-off. So I felt like, well, I mean, maybe I've got a shot.
Yeah. Take that.
Take
So it goes on a lot of, I'll get back to you. Did they ask you to send them videos of you doing certain things?
So many videos.
Really?
I think probably the hardest one was the first one, because it was really just saying, introducing myself, and it didn't give a whole lot of direction, and just wanted to have a little feedback about me and what I would bring to the show. I'm like, I guess I'm not totally sure what I would bring to the show, so let me figure that out and then film.
That's a hard question.
It's
What
a
have you
hard
got?
question.
What have you got? We called you. What have you got to offer?
That's right.
I don't know.
But I tend to think that when opportunity knocks, one must answer. So there was a lot of videoing, a lot of still pictures submitted through really the summer as I moved up through the ranks of contenders.
How many? Do you know how many they had contacted to begin with to whittle down to 8?
It seemed to be a mixture of people they'd contacted and then an open call. So I think one of the food writers I saw had an article. I think he put the number somewhere around 1,500.
Wow, 1,500.
Yeah.
Good heavens, that's incredible. And out of 1,500, you get to be on the show.
Shocking.
That in itself is an accomplishment. If you just got to drive to the barn, you know, if you just got to go look.
Getting on the show was goal number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Goal number 2 was not being the first off.
Mm-hmm.
Goal number 3 was not embarrassing myself.
All 3 accomplished. All 3 accomplished. And easily, I might say, if you haven't watched it. Let's see. All right, when all you guys got together, all 8 of you, did what was the first, did they meet with y'all, or did they have y'all meet before production? Did they do like any team building exercises with y'all? Like, we're going to meet and we're going to do this, we're going to go for a retreat, anything like that?
No retreats, unless you count being essentially quarantined into the hotel before we went on set. So the team building was they brought us dinner, and we all happened to end up in the lobby and met each other. And here is where I have to admit that the Southern accents were so heavy that I couldn't understand what people were saying initially. My ear had to adjust. I was like, what name? Let me say that again.
That's golden right there. So y'all didn't meet each other till right before production.
Oh gosh, no.
Oh my! So you had no idea who you were going to be standing next to, teaming with. That I would think that they'd get y'all together in like a little mixer and a couple days at the Holiday Inn over in Buckhead or something like that, and just get to know each other. But they're doing films and I'm not, so that ought to tell you something. Tell us about day 1 when you were on the set. And now that set is actually it is an event site. It's called the Enchanting Occasions in Covington, Georgia. It's owned by Drew and Brittany Smith. I spoke with Brittany a couple times, a couple weeks ago. She's a wonderful person and had nothing but great things to say about the production company and the show. So she was truly on board with y'all being there. Not that it matters, but it's always nice to hear.
It was really a gorgeous, gorgeous location, and the excitement and really the sheer scale of the production. It was massive. I think there were like 150, 160 crew members there.
Wow.
Which I had not anticipated. I actually tried to understand the scale of the production before I left because I made like little dish towels and brought them for folks, and I didn't have
Wait. You brought dish towels, and did you like put their names on them? Like Grubbs, Grubbs, Rashid.
I brought past socks, Maryland socks, and I brought the crew, or what I thought would be the number of crew. I spray painted crabs onto dish towels because that's a Maryland thing.
Yeah. You like bring like 24 donuts and go, oh my gosh, we're going to need more donuts.
That's essentially the equivalent of that.
So they've got Miss Homemaker showing up. It's like who would you be like that would always show up with food on television? It doesn't matter. I think that's hilarious. And 160 people looking at 24 donuts. They're hoping that they're first.
I think I brought 75.
So first day there, did you start filming right away, or was it any rehearsals, or did they teach you how to use the equipment?
No rehearsals, and I do think that there's I'd like to be invited back to Netflix, so I can't say, exactly how the sausage is made. Haha.
Yeah.
But so the first day that we were on set, we got to look around a little bit, get slightly familiar with the stations, and that was pretty much it, because we were also doing wardrobe, and they had a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on as opposed to really needing us for things. But they also didn't want us to see a lot of things, so that the first time we saw them would be on camera. Like, what type of smokers are we working with? Who are the judges and hosts? They wanted all that to be real reaction time. Yeah, so we would be kept in a cast holding area, this little tent, and as you saw, some of those guys are not so little. So a little tent, we were bursting at the seams, and then spread out, like slowly just started expanding outside of the tent onto the ground as we waited around in this heat wave for whenever it is they wanted us.
Were you nervous?
Of course, absolutely.
Did you tell anybody you were nervous, or did you just let them guess?
Well, I didn't really know anybody,
Well, listen, nobody can stand next to Tina Cannon and not know her, because I mean, she, you'll know her whole family history in the first 15 minutes.
We had some bombastic characters in the bunch, so there was a lot of sharing. There was a lot of telling how we got connected to the show, what the process had been like for us. So there absolutely was a lot of, probably that's the retreat you're talking about, is us when we were tucked away in the cast area. But I tend, until I get really comfortable, I can be a little bit on the quiet side. It's shocking, to some of my friends. But I was just trying to find my way without give away all the information.
Yeah, kind of sit back and scope out the scene. How long did it take?
They filmed for a month.
All episodes, all 8, or I know, how long did it take to film yours, or do you know how long it took to do 8 episodes?
I know they filmed for all of September.
So how long were you there?
I was there for about 2 weeks.
So okay, so it took that long to get to do 4. Wow, it's a long time. Did your family come down, or was it closed set?
No family, closed set, and you couldn't have your cell phone during the day. So at night was when I could catch up with my husband, and I was still working. I was a VP at Sylvan Learning at the time, and managing my team from afar. So when I would get back from the set, and I mean, there were some days you'd be on set for 17 hours a day. You'd come back and you'd be exhausted, but I still had to dig into my work emails and try to get something done.
So a lot of standing around, doing stuff twice. That's what I've always heard other people talk about. Do that again. A lot of that stuff.
It was really the times that you did multiple takes was only as it related to different cameras. So they would do a couple of transition points, like when you would interact with the judges. They would do a couple of takes because it related to the camera angles. But once the clock started and it was real go time, there weren't multiple takes happening.
So it was all real live action competition, right?
Indeed.
Let me just check. Okay, I'm getting to it. All right, everybody wants to know, and I'm going to ask it, and you know the question that's coming.
Is it, why did we?
No, let me ask it. And now the most important question: why did all you wear the same clothes throughout the series?
That is the number one question.
Well, it was so weird. I mean, it's weird. You're looking at Rashid and Tina, and they got the same thing on that they start in day one.
I know. It is strange. And I'll tell you, Steve, I brought 4 very large suitcases with me. So
I have no doubt.
That was not my choice.
Did you bring heels? I bet you had pearls, didn't you? They probably wouldn't let you wear your pearls.
I wear pearls essentially daily.
Yeah.
I find necklaces get in my way. So I like a stud.
So
Um,
you're not allowed to say why they did it. I think I know why,
yeah,
but
yeah, I can tell you. The main reason was for continuity. I think they wanted to be able to take different reaction shots from different days, from the interviews, and splice in as they needed. They wanted recognition for the characters. I know to anyone who sees the blue shirt, they know it's me.
right.
And so fast forwarding just to watch my scenes, it's very easy.
Yep,
Um,
it is.
and then the last piece is, I personally think they wanted you just to binge the whole program at once. And so they didn't want you to think, oh, different clothes, different day. It's like, no, and there's just click, click, click. Like, let's keep going. Roll that tape. I want to watch the next episode. I haven't even finished this one.
All right, the last question before we get into our analysis of the Georgia appearance on American Barbecue Showdown. What were the smokers that you used, and were you familiar with all of them?
Well, we used a pretty wide variety of smokers. So we had a Lang offset smoker, which was obviously beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We had a drum smoker. We used the Big Green Egg.
Mm-hmm.
We used a Traeger. I think those are all the ones that I cooked on. They had some others.
Which was your favorite that you got to cook on? What did you feel more comfortable with?
I don't know. I mean, comfortable is not the word I would use when you have to work with any of these smokers that I hadn't. I have smokers at home, but none of them are as industrial or commercial sized as some of these rigs. So building those fires, managing the fires, managing the food while running in and out to deal with what's going on in the barn, nothing about that was comfortable. But I really enjoyed just the challenge of all of them. The Lang was probably the most unusual for me to smoke on because it was so industrial.
Mm-hmm.
It's unlikely I'll ever have a rig like that in my backyard.
You don't know. You get hooked on them after a while if you've used them a couple of times.
I understand that.
You'd like it. Ben Lang's a good guy. If he sees this, you may see one show up at your driveway. You never know. All right, we are going to do the analysis of the Georgia Chasen appearance on the American Barbecue Showdown. All right, episode 1, the barbecue sampler plate. Right out of the chute, you're given the menu of cooking several meats and sides. Tell us what you cooked it on, and how long did it take you?
Okay, this is a year ago. Let's see if I can remember all of this. So I cooked baby back ribs. I cooked chicken that I made. I made fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I had Hoppin' John, this carrot souffle that's really delicious, and Brussels sprouts. And I used every piece of equipment they gave me. I used it.
Did you? Was that on purpose to kind of get to know the different?
Yeah. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I'd last more than one episode. I gotta.
Oh, okay. I see. So go for the gusto.
Every bit of experience that I could out of this.
Good for you. And the results on episode 1 were great. Rashid won. He's from Atlanta. He was declared the winner. And of course, we all know that shotgun smoked asparagus didn't impress Melissa Cookston and Kevin Bledsoe, the show's judges. And we'll get to them in just a little bit. And he was dismissed. What was it like when you were waiting for the food to be judged, and were you trying to size up your competition at that point?
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, you can't be around some of those folks, including Tina, without getting to know a little bit of their background. So I heard pretty quickly that a lot of my competitors were on the barbecue circuit. In fact, every single one of them, except for Rashid and I, had been regulars competing, and many of them champions. So I realized that it was not exactly as casting had told me, where everyone was an amateur, and that, in fact, I was the amateur.
Mm-hmm. They were just trying to get you. Now, I'm going to get you to hang on, because I have a an analyst that's going to be with me. Okay, so I want you to hang on. This is a person who I depend on a lot, and we are going to bring this person in, and let's see, just a second. So just take a second. I promise. I know this is terrible. I know this is terrible, terrible show stuff, but it's what we got to do. So we'll just see what's going on here. Just a second here. Melissa, are you with us? Melissa Cookston is unavailable. We're going to have Melissa Cookston on with you, Georgia.
That's so exciting.
Isn't that exciting?
Is
that exciting?
Great.
I hope she's watching the interview. I hope she didn't forget, because it took me a long time to set this up. I've been working hard for you, girl. And
I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I'm just thrilled to death that you would want to even appear on the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show. She is unavailable. We will try her again in just a few moments. But I wanted to bring her in because after episode 1, things got really interesting for you, I thought. Now we'll go to episode 2, and that was the red, white, and barbecue. Now, when I heard the judges or the host tell you what this was going to be about, I thought to myself, I could not do that. I've never cooked for that many people. Did that go through your head too, having to cook a picnic lunch for 50 people?
So honestly, the quantity wasn't what terrified me. I have cooked. I've had parties, family parties, where you have 50 people. I just generally take the day off of work beforehand and select my own menu and work at my own pace. So it was really the fact that I was going to have to make sausage, and it was in such a tight time frame, and in an unfamiliar kitchen. You can't underestimate the unfamiliar kitchen, because everything you're searching for, even if it takes an extra couple of seconds, that really adds up.
Did you, let's see, did you know how to do sausage?
I've done sausage once before
Really?
at my house. Yep.
Okay. And you stuffed it yourself and everything like that?
Stuffed it myself.
Uh-huh.
I like to, as you may have guessed, I like to experiment. So if there's something that I'm interested in trying, you can bet that I'm trying it out on the homestead.
Yeah, okay. I was just trying Melissa one more time. She may have forgot. She's big time. I had to call her agent. You know, you don't call Melissa anymore. You call her agent.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Well, while we wait for her, can I say that I thought one of the most interesting dynamics, I think it's interesting you picked out the Melissa and I dynamic, because other than the question about people asking about clothes, a lot of the feedback from my closest friends and family was about Melissa and I.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. It was if I picked up on it, anybody picks up on it, because I'm the dumbest guy in the room, and I'm thinking, okay, here I see this story turning right here. And we're talking about, and we'll just move along. We'll try her one more time here in just a little bit. Then I was just getting ready to say, now it was the episode that the producers introduced a thing between you and Melissa Cookston. Not a bad thing, but an interesting dynamic. And did you know before who Melissa Cookston was? And did you know her accomplishments not only in barbecue, but in the restaurant world and the literary world as well?
I'm afraid I didn't know any of the hosts or judges. And since we didn't have our phones with us, I couldn't even write their names down. I'm like, can somebody please text me their names so I can look them up when I get back to my room?
So you didn't know, you'd never heard of Melissa. You didn't know her from, did not know her.
No, frankly, it probably helped because I wasn't as intimidated as some of the other folks. I mean, helped. I lost, so
Oh,
didn't help
don't say
them.
that yet. Don't say it yet. We're still getting there. We're getting there. Well, she's still unavailable. I wonder where she's at. That's okay. We'll just move on without her. I tried. I want you to know I tried for you. I tried for you. But she's it's like calling the president. Hey, come on, Miss President, will you Skype in with Georgia and I? Yeah, no problem.
You gotta take a second and text that agent.
Huh?
Say, listen,
Valerie. It's Valerie in
get
Memphis.
Valerie.
Valerie in Memphis. Well, that's okay. That's okay. We can do this without her. Because I've got stuff to show you. How hard is it making sausage? And did you know anything about meat to fat ratio? Because I didn't.
I mean, when I originally made sausage at my house, I looked at recipes. I knew at that point what I should be doing. And the thing is that I guess I didn't feel like I knew exactly what I was doing. That seems pretty evident, I think, on the show when Melissa asked me about my ratio. But I was going to go more with a feel, like what did this look like? My hands tell me a lot when I'm cooking, and so I don't necessarily think about it in ratios. So clearly, I picked the wrong one to say.
Let's try one more time. My friend Jeff Maxwell back at his house, he monitors the chat room for us because Facebook chat is really bad. And Melissa is in the chat room, so let's see if we can't get her to pick up on her Skype. I don't know if she has portable Skype or not, but it would be cool if she had it. And it's calling right now and is unavailable. So Melissa, if you're listening to Georgia and I, we have desperately tried to get you on, and your Skype is either not working or something. But that's okay. I appreciate you being in Skype, Melissa, and I know Georgia does as well.
I do. I'm a huge Melissa COOKSTON fan now.
Oh, now you are, yeah.
Really excited. Well, I didn't know who she was before, so it's
Had
hard
you
to get
never
fans.
watched? Had you never watched Barbecue Pitmasters? You're a barbecue person. You never watched that.
I mean, I like eating barbecue.
Yeah.
I like cooking barbecue.
So
I
just
don't
weren't-
spend my time typically watching a lot of TV.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I do, but clearly not the right things.
That's-
I've changed my ways. I watch way more barbecue TV now.
That changed my ways. You'll have to go on Amazon and all right, you shouldn't have. We're talking about Netflix. Amazon has all the Barbecue Pitmaster reruns, and you can watch them. Okay, all right. Episode 3. You in episode 2, you get called to the floor. It's you're down. It's you and Boatwright, correct? And you're struggling because it didn't show Melissa. It showed her eating it, and she made a move and then it edited away, which made me think, and they wanted you to think, did she spit that out?
No.
Because that is the if your food gets spit out by a judge, and it happened on Barbecue Pitmasters once, that's the kiss of death. I mean, you're blackballed. I mean, you'll never be on television again if your food gets spit out. My goodness. And I don't think she did, but she took a real big drink of water right after she ate it. So you're good. You're good. You're good right now. You're good. And so Boatwright was sent packing. He did some great pork chops, but he just didn't have enough time to get his other stuff in. And I don't see if it. And I'll just say this: if Boatwright, Michael, if you're watching, or Boatwright, if you're watching, if I had been there, you'd have been still on the show, because I'd have been the first one gone. I'd have beaten the other guy, the big guy, the big muscles. I'd have gotten off him first. Let's see. Okay, episode 3. This was the weird one, I thought. You don't need teeth to eat this beef. You skated out of episode 2. And on episode 3, you're preparing 2 types of ribs, beef and pork. You had to pick one to prepare wet and one to prepare dry. Was that a difficult choice for you to make, or were you pretty positive on what you wanted to do?
I felt pretty solid on how I wanted to prepare them.
Mm-hmm. So you went wet with the ribs, with the pork, and dry with the beef. And I think that's what everybody did.
Yep.
And that's what I think when Melissa and Kevin were talking, they said that's what we would do too.
Yep.
And so it's good. So y'all did this crazy cook again with the sides are what kill me. That's I don't know anything about cooking. Were you more comfortable with the meat or the sides?
I was more comfortable with the sides.
I'll bet you were. Not that you can't cook meat, but it's just you seem like a home cook, and you're into the macaroni and all the different things that go with food too as well.
Sometimes when I go to barbecue restaurants, I order just the platter of sides.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Hang on. Hey, here we go. Here we go, right here. I believe we've got her on. Melissa.
When I go to barbecue restaurants, I order just the platter of sides.
Melissa, you with us?
I am.
Oh, that's great. Hang on, let me see. Do you have your camera on? You've got her on. Melissa, you're gonna have to turn your camera on and turn your computer down where we can't.
I am.
Oh, that's great. Hang on, just bear with us. Camera on. There she is. How about that? All right, now. And turn your computer down where we can't. Yeah, turn your speakers down where we can't hear you. And Georgia, are you still with me? There she is. I want to make sure we didn't lose Georgia. Boy, this is hard stuff here. Hang on. Let's see. I got to find Georgia. I've got to find her. Hang on, Melissa. Hang on. Let me find Georgia. Or, let's see. Georgia, if you are listening, would you please call back in? I think this thing may have dumped you for some reason. Or I'll call you. Let me call her right back. Hang on just a second, Melissa.
We can't dump Georgia.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know where she went. Crazy Skype. Let's see. We should be able to add her easily. There she is. How about that?
Hi. Hey, Melissa.
No. I got it.
Okay, can you guys see each other and hear each other?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Melissa, you couldn't have come at a better time. And I hope you're surprised, Georgia. And Melissa, thank you so much for doing this for us. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Because we were just talking about episode 3, where Tina Cannon was declared the winner. And once what's new, right? And once again, Grubbs was he made the bottom 2, but the big surprise up to this point was Sylvie making the bottom 2 in episode 3 with the ribs, something that she's cooked as many times as you have, Melissa. What did you think, Georgia, when you saw that Sylvia was in the bottom 2 and you were in the clear?
Oh my gosh, I was just so relieved. One, that Melissa and Kevin had given me a heads up that I needed to adjust my approach with the ribs. Otherwise, it would have been me going home.
Mm-hmm. And what did they say?
They called my attention to the dirty smoke on my ribs.
Right, because you had a bunch of wood in your smoker that wasn't burning; it was just smoking, right?
That's right.
And Melissa, were you surprised that Sylvie was had turned in one of the 2? Not the 2 we didn't like the most, or we didn't like the least, or however y'all said it.
I wasn't surprised by anything at any given time.
Really?
And that whole competition. No, that was the hardest competition every episode of probably each of those competitors' competition lives.
And
it wasn't a typical competition.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, no. So, on any given day, there could have been bang-ups. So nothing was ever surprising. It was very stressful.
Really?
I'm glad I was a judge. I'm just going to say, I'm glad I was a judge.
So Georgia, when you heard your name wasn't called, a big sigh of relief?
Oh, completely.
And up to that point, Sylvie being in the basement was the biggest surprise of the show, because she's really a top drawer competitor. But then, and that's why this episode is so weird, nobody goes home. It's the second chance episode. Were you expecting that, Georgia?
Oh gosh, no. No, that was a total surprise. But I didn't think it was weird. It felt in keeping with, I think, the spirit of the show.
Okay.
Barbecue, you don't want to send people home. You want to have the camaraderie. You want everyone to make sure they've got a plate of food. And this episode, I think, particularly with Sylvie and Grubbs on the bottom, people felt like they deserve a second chance, and I'm really glad they got it.
Oh, absolutely. But in barbecue, in a contest, somebody's got to go home. I mean, you may love them to death, but it was just an unusual turn of events that I thought was weird. I was glad, because I liked Sylvie, and I liked Grubbs as well. And I thought the expression on your two faces when they said that, yours and Grubbs, and I think Netflix used that in a promotion somewhere, you're ecstatic. I mean, the joy in your faces was like, wow, we get another chance. And if that's what they were going for, they did it. I thought it was great. Melissa, did you think that was weird, or were you glad that they wrote that in there, or did you and Kevin say, hey, this is too close?
It was really close. And I was glad we had the opportunity to do that.
Good. That's good. All right. Episode 4, the Tournament of Sandwiches, which was one of the top two. I think in my book, it was the final episode, the pigs, roasting the pigs, and this episode right here, because this was very interesting. And Melissa, what you said on the show, that judging a sandwich is the hardest thing to judge, because there's so many different flavors in a sandwich, and it's something that we all eat, and it's something that we know what our favorite sandwich is. You ask somebody, what's your favorite sandwich, and it's, for me, it's turkey on a light with smoked cheddar and mayonnaise. Boom, I can tell you that right off the tip of my tongue. So everybody knows what their favorite sandwich is. At this point, you haven't won around yet, Georgia. You had to dodge the bottom. And but now is where we get to the fun part. First of all, tell us about the big news that was going on with you personally during the show.
I did have some big news. I was pregnant.
Yeah.
The show did not show it, but everybody on set knew about it, partially because in one of the episodes, I had found out just before we came on set that I was having a baby boy. And so the cast and the crew, everyone found out about that before my family. I found out, I told my husband 2 minutes later, and then we had to leave to go to set. And then I told out all of them. So it was really exciting for me, because that's something I'll always remember. I mean, what baby gets to be along for a Netflix show?
Yeah, no kid. Melissa, when y'all found out, were y'all what was like when you all in the staff found out that she was expecting?
Well, we were all aunts and uncles at that point. I mean, she may not have deemed us that, but that's what we felt like. I don't know if y'all have discussed this yet, but I think I caught the tail end of it. For some reason, I think people thought that Georgia and I had some sort of riff or something. And you got to realize that that's for TV. I mean, people can't pick up on things. But if I have to say any contestant really caught my eye, I laid down the gauntlet in the first episode. And I said, which this did not make TV, I said, make yourselves memorable. Stand out to me and make yourselves memorable. And Georgia did that. And I'm going to tell you something. Out of all the things we threw at the contestants, Georgia was the one that said, I got this. She never complained. She never moaned. She was full of grit and determination through the entire thing. And she reminded me of me and was probably my favorite competitor.
Wow. I'll be done. Now you made her cry. She'll have to take a break. Good for you,
I
Georgia.
probably made her cry from that time. But
That is
we have to say, as judges, we have to say positive and negative things. And it is never easy to hear negative things about your food because you have poured your heart, your soul, and everything you have into your food. I'm a competitor, and I know it is not easy to hear that, but that was my job. And when they take that 140 hours or whatever it is of film that they have and cut it into a 40-minute show, I don't know what that's going to look like. But for me, Georgia was, she's an outstanding cook, and she'll always have a little piece of my heart. And that baby, that's mine. I'm Aunt Melissa.
That's fantastic. All right, now we're going to talk about the situation because I know if it's just for TV, I understand that. But I'm not the only one that thought that. Georgia said her friends thought that as well, that there was a little something. Now I want to do something real quick here. I want y'all to
before you do that, Steve, can I expand?
You can do anything. Okay. You can do anything you want.
So twofold. One is so my best friend was just like, I cannot believe Melissa is saying that about your food. She started writing down all the things that you said because she wanted to come. But my mom called me up and said, "Oh, honey, I think you won her over. Oh, I think she really wants you to succeed. She really, really wanted you to do, better than you did."
Isn't that funny how two people watch the same thing and come away with two different attitudes?
And that's true.
That is so funny.
The next episode after the sandwich, I believe it was Wild Game. And I remember looking at, I believe it was Rut, and saying, I wonder how Georgia would have done, because I think she would have done really well in this challenge. So I kind of wish sandwich had come later because it was tough. I really wish it had come later.
All right. Now this is when I first thought that that there was maybe something going on. Now you watch Melissa, and I want you to watch her lips. Okay, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Just only take a little bit.
Oh, you can't pay attention to my face, honey.
Hold on.
I was probably doing something about Kevin's shirt.
I don't know what Kevin was doing. He's wiping ruffles off of his chest, but her lips were perched. Perched lips are. And Melissa, you even said it.
My dermatologist tells me, she says, you have so many wrinkles because you have permanently perched lips. And I told her, I said, I was born disappointed. So that's why.
And at least, Georgia, you weren't on the receiving end of the Melissa, the famous. I mean, I wish you knew how famous she was at this television thing. The kill shot of Melissa COOKSTON is, if you had done this just a little bit. That's the one, like, you're gone. You might as well hit the road. And you used that on somebody. I don't remember who it was. But the little bit came out one time, and I thought, oh, here we go. Here we go. Now, and here's the second thing. This is the second part of, and we're going to play this whole thing. So y'all just kind of watch this. It's not that long, and it's very funny.
All right, that is looking good. This is going to be my pulled pork. So I'm going to get inside, pull it apart, and sauce it up a little bit.
I'm a little concerned that Georgia has pulled her pork off too soon. Pork has a lot of intramuscular fat, so rendering that fat is the key. And pork needs to be cooked to an internal temperature of
Y'all hear
around
that?
200 degrees to be very succulent, have moisture, but be nice and tender, and be to a proper pulling texture. We might have some chewy pork sandwiches.
You have 15 minutes.
And here it comes.
Counting on a positive outcome for this round. This is smoked fried pork belly. It's ready to shred, so I'm gonna bring this inside.
My chicken sandwich ended up with a little soggy bun on the bottom of it. Now, I'm not gonna put too much something in there, but it's a camo thing to me. It's like, cover up the taste of the barbecue with sauce. We don't want to taste sauce. We want to taste the meat.
I like it. Will the pork queen like it?
That's it right there. I like it, but will the pork queen like it? The pork queen. Now, were you within earshot of that, Melissa, when she said that during the filming?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have taken offense.
No.
I know exactly how stressed these competitors were. And it's not easy. I remember seeing black smoke rolling out of the top of Georgia's smoker, and I looked at the production team and I said, "Can I please go over there? Can I please just go over there? If I can stop this real fast,
Yeah.
just maybe
Yeah.
if I can just stop this from happening real fast." You sit there and we're constantly talking different scenarios while they're cooking. Just talking about everything that could possibly happen and what if this and what if that. And I saw that black smoke rolling and my stomach just dropped.
But y'all went over and helped her, and she did the right thing. She got the wood out. Let it breathe a little bit.
Right.
I in no way meant the pork queen to be offensive. I had heard you called the queen of pork, and I cared very deeply about getting it right.
I don't.
Baby, how much worse. That's the
Georgia, I didn't take it as you trying to offend her. I took it as you trying to impress her.
Oh yes, exactly.
And that's what I took it. I took it as a,
let her like this.
here comes your one, sister. You think that pork was dry? Here, I'm going to fix it so you're going to like this. And I liked it just as soon as Melissa was saying, you got to pull pork at 205. It shows the thermometer going in meat at 162. I thought that was some pretty good editing right there by the producers. But it was great. It was great. And I thought that was the best line of the whole entire thing. Was that I like it, but will the pork queen like it? And then the eyebrow thing. The eyebrow thing was just, that was, let's see, here it is right here. This is just, I don't know where that came from.
I like it.
It's
Will
a
the
little
pork
Groucho
queen
Marx.
like it?
Yeah,
I don't
look
know.
at that.
I like it. Will the pork queen like it?
That's just me in my kitchen. I'm telling you that right
I
now.
like it. Will the pork queen like
Melissa,
it?
do you ever like the pork when it's sliced like that before it is soft enough to pull?
Oh, I turn in sliced pork in Kansas City contests all the time.
They sell pork, I think they're called pork steaks, aren't they, Melissa? Pork steak?
That's not what I call it.
Well, I know. I was in Sam's the other night and had a whole rack of pork steaks, just pork butts cut up. So I don't like it, but some people do. I don't think I cook it right. I think it's too tough, but I don't want to do cooking shows. All right. Let's see. As sandwich tournament, was a loser bracket, blah, blah. Okay. As the sandwich tournament kept going, moved from bracket to bracket, you kept falling short of the winning side. And what were you thinking when you ended up in the first round of the losers bracket with Grubbs and Rashid, when the three of y'all were in the losers bracket?
I have to say that was probably the most demoralized I'd been in the entire competition, because I really liked my sandwich. And on one hand, I just want to leave it on the table. I just want to do everything I can, put out the best possible food that I can, and then wherever I place, I know that I earned that spot. but I was really a little bit thrown because I really liked my sandwich so much. And so I needed to adjust. But I think the part that is really difficult is you've got 3 challenges in one time frame.
Right.
So you got to right back up. You got to get back into it. And you can't, you got to catch the ball before you can score that touchdown, right?
And in real time during the show, was it a very quick turnaround thing after they judged, right back at it?
Yeah, I remember I took like a quick little break. I was eating a piece of cheese and everybody else was like running around already. And production was like, we're still going, like, go. But I needed like 30 seconds to just get my head back in the space.
All right. Of course, the final round, the losers bracket, the last round in the losers bracket, you and Grubbs standing side by side. What's going through your mind there, Melissa? And you joined in after Georgia. What was going through your mind when you knew who was going to go home, and you're looking at the 2 of them? Go ahead, Georgia.
I knew that it was a really strong possibility it was going to be me. I felt like we were kind of neck and neck. We each had different pieces that we brought to the sandwich. But I knew that my beef sandwich was my weakest sandwich of the 3. So I do feel like I left myself open to be cut.
Mm-hmm. And Melissa, what were you thinking when you were looking at those 2 guys?
You know, that I it's so hard to see any of them go home. You know, and that's really the hard thing because, you know, as judges, we don't get to hang out with the contestants. We don't talk to them for obvious reasons.
Right.
But, you know, we watch them work so hard, and to send any of them home is so hard. But, you know, Georgia, you know, she didn't have any competition experience, and she came in there, I mean, fighting. And, you know, I wanted to see what she could do, and I was not ready for her to go home.
She made it halfway through the competition, though, with no experience and just on kitchen skill.
But if that sandwich challenge had not been where it was, and it had been, you know, later in the game, I wanted to see what she could do. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for her to go.
All right, we're gonna play the final scene right here. It won't last long.
Georgia and Grubbs, unfortunately, one of you has to go home. Judges?
Today's elimination came down to 2 amazing barbecue sandwiches. But for Melissa and I, one was just slightly better than the other. Georgia, the consistency of your beef was a little undercooked. It needed a little bit more time to be a little bit more tender.
Grubbs, what about putting sauce all the way across that sandwich? Kind of wish you'd have thought about getting it from stem to stern.
I wish I'd have just dumped a ladle on there.
So, judges, who is going home tonight?
Georgia, I'm sorry. Your barbecue sandwich was the least favorite of ours, so tonight you'll be going home. Let's come on.
And there's the big hugs.
This was my
And then we had the lemonade toast at the end of that segment, like they always do. I saw on your face shock, but I also saw relief. Were those edited in there, Georgia, or was that the real scene?
Oh no, that was the real scene for sure. And I think you're probably right. I was pretty exhausted at that point. And when I got home, I slept for 3 days straight.
Wow.
No joke.
I bet.
And I said to my to my unborn baby the whole time, I said, hey, we work in this family. Every time I felt like I needed to sit down, I would tell him what we needed to do. And I think he and I were both relieved when it was time to go. Of course, I would have loved to stay and fight another day. But the competitors I was up against were just so good that there was no shame in going home, and it was a relief to get a little sleep.
Well, Georgia, I'm gonna tell you the show is a hit because it's good. It's good television. Melissa, you and Kevin were great. I don't know who Netflix could have picked to do a better job. You're both very entertaining. Knowledge is unquestionable, and Melissa, you have become one of the premier. You're already a premier cook, but you're one of the premier spokespeople for barbecue in this country. And seeing you in a setting like this makes me feel, as a person that likes to study barbecue, do barbecue, and quote live the barbecue life. I'm very proud of you, and I'm very proud of the way you represent the things that we do. You're wonderful. It was wonderful for you to be here tonight, and it was a great job, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I really do.
Thank you.
All right. Georgia, thank you so much for being with us tonight. GeorgiaChasen.com, CHASEN. Go to her website. It is a good website. Melissa Cookston, it's melissacookston.com.
Correct.
Is that right? Go to her site,
That's
another
right.
good site. You can see Melissa in Barbecue Pit Masters reruns. I want you, Georgia, to go back and find what was it, season 3? Melissa, when you made your debut as a competitor?
2, 3, 4. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, but go back. She went from competitor to temporary judge to full-time judge, and she is the only person that could keep Meyer Mixon in check.
I did a pretty good job of that.
You did a real good job. Ladies, thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all, and y'all have a great evening. Georgia and Melissa, thank you so much. Melissa Cookston, thank you for hopping in and into our little show here, the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show. We really do appreciate her hopping in. Jeff, thank you back in chat for monitoring everybody. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next Thursday with a guest. The Thursday after next, we'll have James Grubbs from American Barbecue Showdown, the person you saw there with Georgia. James will be with us in 2 weeks. And until next week, everyone, good night and good luck.